Good morning, everyone. Happy to see a nice house, new faces. Welcome. Today is a very special day to TSS. Today we are celebrating our 12th year of existence. So we are very, very happy to see you all here and be with us. So I'm going to be doing the initial
Behind you.
the initial reading. And after that, we're going to do the prayer. So this is from the book Happy Life, from Givaldo and Joanna de Angelis. Set aside some time to appreciate beauty. Wake up early to see the sunrise and value the force of its light. Walk through the woods quietly, breathing in the air of nature. Contemplate a starry night and ask silent questions. Contemplate a rose as it opens in full bloom. Stop beside an innocent child. Talk with a tranquil old person. Open yourself to the beauty that it is in everything and adorn yourself with it. So let's close our eyes and elevate our thoughts to God, our Creator, to Jesus, our Master of love, our guiding light, to all the spirits present here today, the incarnate and discarnate ones, and ask them to bless us throughout this morning, that open our minds and our hearts for the new, for the lectures and the new learnings. We ask Jesus to open Raphael's mind and heart so he can give us the best that he has. As we celebrate TSS 12 year of creation, we are thankful and grateful for being here with all of you. And we ask God to give us permission to start. And so be it. Rafael?
Thank you, Sandra. Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to those who are watching through the internet. So as Sandra was saying, it's a very important day for us. I've been here for 12 years. From these 12, I've been here 8 of them. So it's interesting. I was so you were saying, and I was thinking that time goes by so fast, and it will go regardless. What matters is what do we do during this time. It will pass. There's nothing we can do. The years will come and go. The important thing is what do we do when these years they come and go.
Rafael, I forgot to say the name of your lecture today.
Yeah. So the name of the lecture today is Do We Go to Heaven? Some form or some variant of this question. So it's related to us in a moment of our incarnation asking, what's going to happen to me afterwards? What is the afterlife? Where would I go? Who would I be? Would I be myself or not? And this is something that we have always done. We have always done since we became humans. In the Spirit's book, the last chapter, it's called Future of Joys and Sorrows. And the reason that that is the last chapter, it's because we needed to develop very important concepts to get to that chapter and understand if we go to heaven or not. And the main concepts that we needed to understand are the existence, immortality, and progress of the spirit. So this is the base for us to understand is that we are spirits. We are immortals. We are not going to die. Our body does, and then we get another body, and then the body dies again, and so forth, so on. We are immortals. We will continue. And even more important, we will progress. We will get better. Always. We are always progressing. What we are today is not what we're going to be tomorrow. We'll keep progressing. So we needed to understand these concepts to go to this last chapter of future and of joys and sorrows. And in the very beginning of the chapter, question 959, Kardec asks a very important question that it's related to why do we think like that. So nobody tells you that tells us anything, and we have this indagation. We question ourselves, and the spirits they answer. Prior to its incarnation, the spirit knows all these things, and the soul retains a vague memory of what it knows and what it saw in the spirit state. So we are spirits, and we are living in a mode, one of the mode of existences, which is to be incarnated. But we have the knowledge, we have the intuition of what we experienced before we incarnated. We just don't remember. The whole point of us studying is trying to develop our intellect so that we can understand our intuitions. So it's like trying to join heart and mind. That's why we study, to try to expand our reason, so then when we get to a point where we understand why we have these feelings, why do we have this intuition. And when we get there, which is the combination that we call in spiritism, religion, philosophy, and science. It's all the same thing. We just divide them because it's an easier way to teach and to talk about it, but it's all the same thing. We are just developing our intuition to meet, developing our intellect to meet our intuition. And then when we get there, we have a faith that is rock solid. We see it. Oh, yes, it's you. At least what happened to me. I opened the Spirit's book and I knew instantly that that was true. Nobody had to prove it to me. I didn't have to see a spirit in front of me. I already knew that that was true because that was my reason meeting something that I already knew. So that's what the spirits are telling us. We have this intuition. We are just here trying to develop our intellect to try to understand why do we question ourselves. So where do we go? Where do we go after we discarnate? Together with the intuition that we are going to go somewhere, that this life, it's not the end. That we feel this. We have always felt that. It comes the question, okay, if that's not the end, so where do we go then? And together with the intuition that we are going to continue, there's the knowledge of justice. We have always known justice. When I was thinking about this, I imagine like a tribe of hunters, like very primitive, and then they did hunter-gatherers before the event of agriculture. And then they would go and hunt, and then would invite a person to go with them, of a strong man, and the man said, no, I don't want to join you guys. I'm just going to wait here for you guys to come back. So that tribe goes, hunts, I don't know, big mammoth or whatever, and then they bring all that meat, and then they are all dirty, and they have bruises, and then they start eating, and then that guy wants to participate, the guy that didn't want to go, the lazy guy, and then they say, no, you don't eat with us. Maybe we're going to let you have the scraps after we finish. So this it's very clear, right? So this is something that it seems very simple analogy, but it's very powerful in the sense that it makes sense to us. We don't even know why, but that's justice. It's justice that we have inside of us, and we know that. And it's the same thing. We develop our intellect to guide our sense of justice. So we always knew that if life continues, that guy that I judge to be an evil guy or even evil person cannot go to the same place that the other one that I judge to be good. See the detail that I judged. I judged to be evil, I judged to be good. So then it comes this idea of heaven and hell. So they have to go to different places. They have that if there is a creator or several of them, depending on. Remember that I'm talking about the primitive people. So they have to be just. If they have to be just, they're going to separate those discarnate spirits and put in heaven and hell. And then a little further down the road, we develop this concept of eternal punishment. Eternal punishment. So it's another step. We know that there has to be something after death. We know that there has to be at least two places. Where they are, I don't know. But then we put some sauce on top. We say, if you go there, you're never going to get out of there. You're going to be there forever. It's going to be eternal. And at that time, it made sense. And this, it's so important that Kardec, he dedicated in the book Heaven and Hell a whole chapter on it. And he talks about it in all the books of the codification. You see him talking about eternal punishment, because we as a civilization, we really believed in that, and it made sense to us. But now it doesn't anymore. It doesn't. What I want to bring an example of progress of a spirit that's within the Spirit's book, within this last chapter. It's very interesting. So that you can read it, and it takes a long time to see it, but it is there. And it's related to the very spirits who answer the questions about eternal punishment. So I pick only two. There are several, but I pick two. St. Louis and St. Augustine. And we start, for example, with St. Augustine. He was a bishop in the 5th century. So it was, at that time, it was a very critical time, because the Roman Empire that controlled that whole part of the world and the Mediterranean. So he was based in Africa. So he was a bishop in Africa. And he lived at the very moment, the very point where the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire collapsed. So they were invaded by the Visigoths. And people start thinking that that was a punishment from the gods, because they had become Christians. So they started with Constantine, and then the other emperors, they all made Christianism the main religion. And for the pagans, when I say pagans, it's a nomenclature that they used at that time, which is the ones that follow still the ancient Roman religion. Okay, so that they were saying that Rome fell because we became Christians, so that's a punishment. And St. Augustine, he wrote a book that is called The City of God Against the Pagans. So he wrote a book to argument against the other people that believe that was a punishment. So it's a very important book in Catholicism. They call it today just the City of God. He was a very, very intelligent man, and his writings, there's a lot to learn there. But he himself, he had the faith of the time. He ignored some things that we don't ignore today. Um, and he was declared saint in 1298. It's just a date that is going to make sense later on. So when he wrote the book, he wrote about the war between God and the devil. So it started this whole thing that we have a spirit that is as powerful as God, and they are fighting among themselves. And to this day, we still have people who believe that. But the thing is, there is no war. The war that he didn't have the right intellect to interpret his own intuition. That war, it's us. It's inside of us. It's our struggle between good and evil. It's not the creator of the universe and against a destructor of the universe. So it doesn't exist. Everything that happens is allowed by God. There's no war. There is no war. The war is just inside of us. But in his time, it made sense. And it's very important. It's to me, it's very interesting. I hope I can transfer how interesting that is, because you read the book of St. Augustine when he was incarnated, and then you read the contribution of St. Augustine in the codification by Kardec, and you see the difference, you see the progress, you see God's love. It's not punishment. St. Augustine was not punished because of what he wrote, or because his ideas were not accurate. He was called to educate himself and to participate the new idea, the new revolution that would correct those ideas. So that's what God does. It's not eternal punishment. It's not punishment. It's education. So the same guy that wrote that death is a punishment. So we die because Adam committed the original sin. So he ate the apple. That's why we die. That's why we suffer. It's all related to that man that ate the apple. So that's what he wrote. 17 centuries later, he is responsible for the whole chapter of evolution of the world in the gospel. The same person. And I'm going to read just one paragraph so we can understand the progress of a spirit. So this is the same guy that says the death is the punishment due to Adam's original sin, and the war against good and evil, and eternal punishment. Progress is one of the laws of nature. All animate and inanimate beings of creation are submitted to it by the goodness of God, who wills for everything to grow and prosper. Everything. Death, which to humans appears to be the end of things, it's only a means of reaching a more perfect state through transformation, since everything dies in order to be reborn, and nothing suffers annihilation. So you see here the progress of spirit, the progress of his ideas. So this is why there is no eternal punishment. There is education, progress, growth, and eventually happiness. That's why it makes no sense for us to think on a place that God will put all the spirits that were evil, and God is going to leave those spirits there. So, and Saint Augustine, when he was asked, actually when Kardec asked in question 1009, Thus, the punishments imposed are never eternal. St. Augustine came to answer. So the same guy that said yes, he came to say now, no, it doesn't. So he says, consult your own common sense and reason and ask yourselves whether an eternal condemnation for a few moments of error would not be a negation of God's goodness. It's clear. Now, what the ancients saw in the master of the universe as a terrible, jealous, and vindictive God is understandable. So if you see in the Old Testament and you compare with that book from Homer, 750 before Christ, the Iliad, and you see Old Testament and Iliad, and you see that there's an overlapping of the way they saw the gods or God, and it's the same way. It's the mind that we had at that time. That's what we understood. And he's talking about this himself, the ancients. He helped that idea to be developed. So he's talking about himself. So he's not talking in a maleficent way. He's saying that's the truth. We are created simple and ignorant, and we have to learn. And we keep learning. We keep learning. It's not about punishment. It's about learning so that one day we can be happy. That's all. In their ignorance, they attributed the human passions to the deity, but that is not the God of Christians, who extols love, charity, mercy, and the forgetfulness of offenses as the highest virtues. He understands now. So how interesting it is that he comes back now to teach us that that philosophy was wrong. So this is God. This is Jesus. And the other one is St. Louis, which was Louis IX, King of France from 2026 to 1270. So St. Augustine was considered a saint right after the death of St. Louis. So this kind of his ideas, the ideas of St. Augustine at the time of St. Louis, they were really alive. People really followed that. So much so that St. Louis, he actually expanded the scope of the French Inquisition. To him, that was the work of God. He was doing the work of God by mutilating people's lips and tongues. So if you talk some heresy, I'm going to remove your lips and your tongues. So that's what he did, and that was the work of God. That's how he understood. At the same time that he created a house for ex-prostitutes, women who didn't want to be prostitutes anymore. He created a house to take care of them. So he kind of, it's a complicated man, because at the same time he mutilated people's faces, and at the other time he practiced charity. That's because that's what he knew. It's his ignorance. And then he comes back in question 1006 to answer Kardec's again. Can the duration of spirit suffering be eternal? And St. Louis answers, of course, if it were to remain eternally bad, that is to say, if it were never to repent or improve itself, it would then suffer eternally. So it's saying, it's possible, well, if you have someone that never learns, that person is going to suffer forever. And then you say, oh, but that doesn't make sense with the Spiritist doctrine. Okay, let's continue. However, God has not created beings eternally devoted to evil. It could happen if God had not created spirits that will never be evil forever. So it can never be eternal suffering, because that's not who we are. That's a disease. It's a disease that we have. Being bad, it's a lack of knowledge. It's an imbalance that we're going to learn to heal. They were only created simple and ignorant, and all of them must progress over a longer or shorter period of time according to their own free will. So it's like being here talking to you guys. So we're always in front of a mirror. So we have to study for a lecture, and then we study the doctrine, and we create a presentation, and we are always asking ourselves, do I do that? Who am I to be here talking about this? Did I do that last week? Did I do that yesterday? Is that the way I think? So it's a mirror that shows us that kind of everything that's wrong with us, and that helps us to progress. And it's the same thing with St. Augustine and St. Louis. Of course, during all the centuries that apart from the codification to where they were incarnated and assumed these names, they grew a lot, I'm sure, and learned a lot. But then they are invited to do this work to progress themselves, to show their progress. So this to me is it's amazing. That's real Jesus. This is real God. Call to work, not punishment. Call to work. So then how do we come up with such ideas? We read the Divine Comedy from Dante Alighieri, or I don't know, so many works and books that come out, and there's all these incredible ideas about what happens in heaven, what happens in hell. And we have, this is mainly due to tradition. So the traditions that we create because of our own ignorance. We cannot understand our own intuitions, as I said in the beginning. And Kardec talks about that a lot in chapter 3 and 4 of the book, Heaven and Hell. Yeah, this one here. And that's why in Spiritism, we try to prevent traditions in the bad way. So what do I mean by tradition? Tradition is a frozen culture, frozen knowledge. It's something that made sense a long time ago, and we continue doing it because we want to honor our forefathers. But it doesn't make sense to us anymore. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. If I make my decisions on what is right or wrong based on something that made sense 2,000 years ago, why would I do it? I have to use my reason. Is it reasonable? If it's not, then disregard it. Other traditions are okay. Like you put a Christmas tree. Why? What is the meaning of that? You put a Christmas tree every Christmas, and you put in your house, and then you put a lot of balls. That is because it's an evergreen. So that in the old times, that would remind people that the green is going to come back. So everything is gray, everything is white. So you put one of the trees that remain green all over winter. It's an evergreen, a pine tree, and then you put inside, and you put fruits on it. The shiny balls and things that those are fruits. Just okay. I see only gray outside, but here inside I see like an orchard. So that's something that is it is a tradition, but it's not a bad tradition. We have to use our reason. And here in Spiritism, that's the reason that we have so many study groups, so that we can differentiate and understand. Okay, so then we go back to the question, do we go to heaven? We already know there is no eternal punishment. There's no eternal punishment. This is just about progress and education. And then in chapter 3, from Heaven and Hell, when Kardec talks about heaven, he tells us something that is very interesting. Since spirits' happiness is inherent to their own individual qualities, they can enjoy it anywhere they may find themselves, whether on the earth in midst of incarnates or in space. So do I go to heaven? Is heaven in you right now? So it depends on you. It's inside of you. It's our inner temple. We build it inside of us. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter. Why is it that it's so difficult to be that happy here on earth? Because we don't know how to do that yet. We don't know. You may have a moment where you're so happy, and if something happened to you, something good, and you're so happy, and then someone says something that you don't like, and immediately you get angry. The day you become strong enough to maintain that state, even when someone is saying something that you don't like, is the day you're going to be in heaven. That's the day you're going to be really happy. It is not about where you are, it's about what you have in yourself. What do you That's why we are here, and that's why sometimes life is difficult. It's a task. It's something, it's like working out. You are exercising, but you are exercising your feelings, your spiritual strength. If we imagine what we call angels or Jesus Christ, okay, Jesus is, according to the Spirit, is the most perfect man that incarnated in our earth, and this is the governor of this planet. So don't worry about climate change. He's in charge. Of course, we have to do our part, but he's in charge. The world is not going to end. He's in charge. We do everything we can, though. Okay. So then we think about Jesus, and we think, okay, he must be in heaven. He must be always happy. But where does he go? He's here. He's in the midst of all. Where are angels? They're probably in the middle of the Russian-Ukraine war. So they're not in a place in the sky. They're working. Are they in heaven? Yeah, they are. Because they are working, doing the work of God. They carry with them. That's why they go there. And that's our future. That's what we have to do. That's who we will become one day. But to put a spirit to work in the name of love amidst a war, that spirit has to be strong. It cannot be a spirit that sees something and then starts crying, oh my God, this is desperate. No, it has to be a spirit that has gone through everything that we're going through now. So it creates a thick skin. And then it can remain with serenity. It remains serene. Okay, it doesn't matter. I need to do my job. It doesn't mean that it is not a passionate spirit. It has a spirit that has love. No, it's just there's no despair there. There's no anger. There's only love. There's this. That's what we're doing in our lives. Kind of purify ourselves with all this complicated things that we have going on in our head, so that only love in the end survives. And that takes time. It takes a lot of time, but that's okay. So then heaven and hell, this is we think, we always think as places, physical places, but it's in us. It's how we see life. It's how we behave. So again, when Jesus was here, when he was incarnated, so he was suddenly an unhappy spirit. He was not in heaven anymore. No, he was a spirit on a mission. He didn't have to come. He chose to come to show us, okay, so I'm having problem. You guys are not understanding. So I'm going to go among you and show you what I'm telling about through his emissaries and prophets. This is what you should do. You carry your cross by yourself. No complaint. No complaint. You carry your cross. You do what you have to do. You keep your eye on the goal. So this is what he came to do for us, to show us. And it doesn't mean that he was not in heaven anymore. No, he was. He was among the people that he loves and teaching them. And he did. We're still talking about him. We still follow his example. It worked. It worked. Not in the time of man, in the time of God. It takes 2,000 years, but that's what it is. Then we hear a lot that happiness is not of this world. As I said before, it's not because it's not supposed to be. It's just because that's the way we are. And it doesn't mean that we cannot be happy. We find our moments. Yesterday I had a barbecue with friends, Spend all day talking with the people that think like us. So I was very happy. I was feeling very good. So that's the happiness that we can expect of this world. We do our best. The more we try to be good, the more good we are going to attract to us, and the happier we will be. Of course, tomorrow the week starts and we face a lot of things that we have to pay bills, we have to work, we have problems at work, but that's okay. That's part of our learning. It doesn't mean that we have to be unhappy. It's just that the happiness that the spirits are saying, it's like a state of ecstasy that never goes away. We're going to get there someday. We just need to be patient. One of the things that prevents us from getting there, it's remorse. Not that it's bad to feel remorse, but that the remorse is a consequence of something bad we did. And it hurts. Wow, it hurts a lot. It's something you, even if you say something that hurts someone else, it seems like in my head, it shows as a wound, like you have a wound in your pure spirit, and it hurts you until you can fix that. The minimum that you can do is to apologize, and then already ease up a little bit. And that's why we are here. That's why we ask to come, because we can go and stay with André Luis and on the colonies and see people playing piano and that very nice grass, and then we remember the things. As spirits, we don't have the shield of the body. The body is very heavy, so the thoughts of guilt that we have, they are not as powerful because our brain is like it's very massive. It's a lot of flesh. We need a huge melon to hold it together, and it takes some time for this guilt to actually work on us. But then when we are on the other side, we don't have that anymore. So the guilt comes full force, and it hurts. That hurts. That's the punishment. It's not God. It's our guilt. It's us remembering what we did wrong. And then we are there with André Luis, and then we ask, I'm not happy. I need to go back to work. I need to go back, and I want to go with that guy. Because I want to spend my life just trying to fix this error. And then we come and you have a brother or whatever, a family member that you have a problem with. And then you don't understand why.
Then you move to Canada.
Exactly. Then you go all the way around the world, and there's another guy there waiting for you to pick up. There's no running away. There's no victims in this world, and there's no running away. And that's in the book, The Messengers, and Release tells us that when the moan starts, when we start making noise because we are feeling pain, it's when the progress is really kicking in, because you are dealing with your regrets, your guilt. When we feel this, it's not useful for us to when we get to that point and we feel that remorse and guilt, to just I'm worthless, I'm just gonna kill myself, if that would be possible, or I'm just gonna get into depression mode. No, you feel okay, but then you stand up and you continue and you fix it. It's not a reason for you to give up everything. No, you have to keep going. You have no other choice. You have to keep going. If you have to apologize, you apologize. If the person doesn't accept, what can you do? You did your part. Continue. Go on. No despair, no depression, and no giving up. You keep going. That's what we have to do. That's why we are here. I wanted to close with something that from the book 7 Minutes with Emmanuel, on chapter 11, when Emmanuel, Haroldo Dutra was the one who wrote this book, so he picks up several passages from Emmanuel, and he talks about it. And he's talking about the first chapter of John. They saw Jesus walking on the road, and oh, there's Jesus. Let's go and talk to Jesus. Everybody wanted to be around Jesus. He was a very pleasant man. He is, and everybody went there. And then Jesus saw them. There they come. And then he turns and he said, "What are you looking for?" And of course, um, when you get to that level, there's nothing that spirit does that doesn't have a meaning. Everything has a meaning because they are never just entertaining themselves. They're always working. They are always working. So that there was a huge meaning. What he meant is, what are you looking for when you come to me? What do you want? Why do you come here now? And this is something that, according to Emmanuel, it's what Jesus is asking every temple in this planet. Why do you come here now? And it's directly related to, do I go to heaven? So when we are here, we need to ask ourselves, why are we here? Why do we come all the way to TSS today? Emmanuel, in the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, he tells us, without an inward understanding of Jesus while going about one's daily chores, the soul will continue to be prisoner to inferior concerns. So, what do we want? Why do we come here? We come here to strengthen ourselves and to embrace the struggle that comes in trying to better yourself. That's why we come here. It's a moment where we can relax and we can receive this boost of faith, of strength, so that we can continue our week and continue in our battle to be a better person. One day this battle will end, but that's the battle of good and evil that Saint Augustine was talking about. It has to start. It has to, and we have to maintain it. We have to try to be better. At the same time, we need to understand that we're not going to change from one day to the next. We have to forgive ourselves. You embrace a struggle, but you forgive yourselves as well. I often think, if we ask, do I go to heaven? Do I want to go to heaven? Then I imagine, I like action movies. I like the Avengers, and then you think, if I go to a place right now where they don't have Netflix, they don't have Disney Channel, they pray in the morning, the afternoon, in the evening, they work all the time, they don't sit down to watch Avengers. Is that the place that I should be? No, it's not. And that's okay. One day it will be. One day it will be. One day I will watch an action movie and I will see there's so much violence in there. This makes no sense to me. It's no good to me anymore. One day it will be. But we have to understand that it takes time for us to change. I'll give you one example. Let's say 21 centuries ago, it was very common for us to be around an arena with people killing themselves, like the gladiators. It was not every time that they would kill themselves, but in the minimum, it will be first blood. So they would kind of go at it, and the first one who cut the other would, okay, you can stop the fight. Most of the time it was like that. When it was a very important event, then it had to be to death, because that's what we liked it. We liked that. We would go there, sit down, and applaud, and uh, we don't do that anymore. That's not good for us. If we look at that, it will be terrorized. It's terrible. So we grew. We grew. At least we don't do that anymore. So that's how it is. So when Jesus asks, what are you looking for? I'm looking for strength to continue this struggle. Strength to forgive those who hurt me, and to ask for forgiveness for myself, and the strength to fix the errors, to be strong enough to fix what I did wrong, to see it and fix. That's what we are doing here. And we see that this is the way of God. This is the way of Jesus. That's why we have St. Augustine and St. Louis helping us right now. It's education, it's growth, it's progress, it's happiness, love. That's God. That's God. So if we ask me, how do I go to heaven? Where are you now? What place are you building in your heart and your mind? That's the place that you're going to go. If everybody's there together, then the atmosphere changes and it becomes a physical place, because we create that with our thoughts. But it's not because the place was there and the people were sent there. No, it's the people are sent there first, and then the place is created because the people are feeling that way. So it's all us. All us. So heaven is inside of us. So if you want to know if you are in heaven or not, you just look inside. That's the place we're building for ourselves. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Rafael. Well, now we open for those that come here for the first time. We have around 5 minutes for questions or comments. Any questions from the internet? No? Any questions or comments here? Jo, do you have any comments?
I always have a comment.
So come closer so everybody can hear you.
So, Rafael, you did a very good job explaining about heaven on earth, heaven within inside us. We also have to go back to traditional definition of heaven, and it's often also representing the afterlife, right? So we absolutely all will go to the afterlife. But that afterlife of bliss, of near perfection, is our destination. So the good news is that the answer is yes, we will also go to that blissful heaven that we're moving towards. The bad news is it might take a little while. And each one of us will have a different path and a different timeline to get there. But we're all moving. God is merciful. God would not create us for the purpose of struggling for one life after another, because that's kind of a internal punishment as well. If we were always going to stay reincarnating and always in suffering, then our incarnated lives are a bit of a hell. So the promise that God gives us, and the Spiritism explains, is that we live now, we suffer, we are going through this experience, we will die, our body will expire, but we will continue, we'll come back, and we'll be better. Every time's a little bit better. We're learning, we're progressing. And over many, many of these lives, we will reach that ultimate blissful heaven. That is what a lot of religions talk about. They just skip all of the middle chapters of getting there, right? And Spiritism kind of says, hold on, there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and one life is not enough. So that's to me, that's the key. That's in fact the main concept that brought me into Spiritism, is this notion that we cannot get everything right in this life. It would be completely unreasonable, impossible to be saints in one life. And, if we were going to second guess every little decision we make with that fear that we're not being perfect, then that's a recipe for disaster for ourselves as well. So we have to be honest with ourselves, understands that we are imperfect, right, as you said. But what we do have an obligation to do is to understand where we're making the mistakes, how do we correct them, and how do we avoid them in the future. That's the real kind of secret of life, if you may, that will ensures that we're moving as fast as we can towards that promised blissful existence. And by the way, when we get there, it just means we have a lot more work. I also say that in Spiritism, unlike the other religions, is that heaven is a place to do nothing. In Spiritism, heaven is the place where we can do the most work. And our bliss is achieved not by satisfying our needs, by helping the needs of others. It's a beautiful vision. Thank
Don't leave. Well, nothing happens by chance. I'm not a believer that things and dates and all that. I always look for the meaning of this. So today we are celebrating 12 years of TSS, and this is our new president. And I want to thank
And I'm the
you.
old president.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the old new. So it's easy. You can't forget that.
Yes, I just want to thank both of you, Rafael, for getting that torch and lighting it up so TSS can continue, and Joe for those beautiful 12 years that you gave us, that you strengthened us, and it's just a beautiful journey that we are here together. So thank you, Rafael.
Thank you, guys,
And thank
for
you,
the
Joe.
chance.
Okay.
Okay, Joe, would you like to do the final prayer?
The
You want
president.
Rafael?
Okay,
Okay.
I'm ready here.
We're going to do the.
Prayer and then pass.
But, did you close that, Joe?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Dear Lord, our Creator, Master, Brother, Guide, Jesus, mentors of this house, we express our deep gratitude for the opportunity to be here in this house, where we are blessed with these fluids that penetrate our bodies, our perispirits, quietening our hearts and preparing us for another week. We thank you for the opportunity to be incarnated once again, and for being involved in this knowledge while we are incarnated. So then we continue and accelerate our work. And we ask you to be with us, to allow us to remember these teachings during the difficulties that we face in life, so that we can learn to overcome them. Thank you. So be it.
Thank
Alright,
you,
guys.
Rafael. So for those who'd like to have interactions, this is the time. We're going to give